Hi, everybody. Yes, we're going to do the UnFuckIt discussion tonight. And we've got someone with something on. Hold on, mute. Get rid of the background noise. There we go. So, wild fucking insanity going on. Yet again. This time the wild insanity, well, not this time, it's fucking all the time, but the weather. And I want to talk, we're going to dig into a subject that I don't dig into. Frickin' ever, really. So, we're going to go places where I've never gone before. Ha 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 ha. Hold on, I'm just getting a message. Starts now. Tee hee hee. And I just got a message from Hawaii because I'm trying to keep track of what's going on there. So there we go. Also to do with what we're going to talk about tonight. So I got talked 2 discussions ago about all the flooding that was happening. Okay, so we talked about from April 14th to the 20th, basically a 6-day period. Everything went insane. Like there were massive floods all over the planet. And I mean literally all over the planet. It wasn't just, one continent or another. Every single continent on the planet, in at least 1, if not 2, 3, or 4 places, had massive flash floods. And that's continued. That's actually continued since then. There's have been more and more huge floods coming out of season, floods coming out. I mean, places like, so for example, there was a really, really bad one in northern India. Over 100 people were killed. It was a flash flood and a massive dust storm hit at the exact same time, months before monsoon season. So people just weren't prepared. They were not even remotely prepared. And all of these, for the most part, a lot of these storms that are happening are coming without any notice. Or they're coming up, like the weather forecast is, oh, there's going to be a rainstorm, but they're not predicting that there's going to be like an epic flood type event. And we talked about Kauai in Hawaii. The island of Kauai has gotten nailed. They just got nailed again with another flood. Yesterday or the day before. So we have got the most bizarre fucking weather. People are having epic snowstorms. What was it, last weekend? Haha. In May. The first, last week of April, first week of May, snowstorms. Tornadoes. Tornadoes again in places that don't get tornadoes, like Ontario. Wild hot weather flashes. We've got Fred over in Romania. Brianna has had 30-degree temperatures in Romania. It's been hotter than Malta every day for a week. Like she's roasting her ass off in the first week of May in Romania. Here we've had pretty nice temperatures, warm, okay. What we pretty much expect for this time of year. The weather is absolutely insane. I'm getting reports of people saying it was 80 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. Today it is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Or vice versa, saying we were 35 degrees Fahrenheit 2 weeks ago, and now we're in 75, 80 degree weather, and the plants don't know what the hell they're going to do. And when we had talked to Ben a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, his chickens were actually having winter coats, winter feathers. They were already growing winter feathers, and it was in March. They were growing winter feathers. And he's like, okay, it is hot. Why the hell are these chickens growing winter feathers? It does not make sense. We've had the crazy, insane freaking weather. And I follow this, and I have always followed this for years whenever they have these bizarre. Oh, and that was it. Apparently in 2 or 3 different countries, it rained fish. What? It rained fish. Literally, there were fish on the streets, like everywhere. Now, and I have not gone and done, I haven't done the homework. I'm repeating hearsay, totally repeating hearsay, because I haven't actually gone to look for firm evidence that this actually happened. Now, but in the past, this is a historical thing. Raining fish, raining frogs, things like that. Historically, it actually does happen. There are historical records beyond the Bible that have talked about things, events like this happening. We're talking serious bizarreness. Now, the big news this last week is the earthquakes in Hawaii, in the Big Island. Now, Hawaii had a 6.9 earthquake, which is the biggest earthquake they've had since 1975. And they've had something ridiculous like 200 earthquakes since then. In the last 48 hours, they've had 200 earthquakes. And some of them have been like 2s and 3s, but most of them have been in the high 4s, 5s. We're not talking little ones. The scary part of it is that the volcano, which they'd already had warnings because there'd been some seismic activity, so they'd already put out warnings, the volcano's active, it's kind of getting all hot and bothered, and someone had flown over the volcano and had taken video footage of like the whole crater, if you will, of the volcano was filled with lava. And then someone did a flyby, and I believe it was the next day, and the crater was empty. And they were like, holy shit, because if all the lava has left the crater, that means it's gone somewhere else. And they have massive cracks. I think that now it's up to 8 fissures in the earth, and the island have shown up. Massive cracks, and they're like rivers of lava flowing down through these cracks. This is a major, major issue. Like, this is not a little thing. This isn't Hawaii has an active volcano, whoop-de-shits. This is really, really fucking major. When you start talking about fissures in the earth and cracks opening up with rivers of lava running through them, this is major. I had a chance to listen to Dutch since first thing this morning. He was live talking about it. I just caught the very tail end of his live report. When I went and looked on the EMSC, which is the European geological website, like Europe's answer to the USGS, because I don't trust the USGS at all, so I never even look there anymore. The amount of major earthquakes around the Pacific Ring of Fire in the last 24 hours, huge. Okay, there was a 6-pointer. There was a 6.9 in Hawaii. There was a 6.3, I think, in Japan. There was a 6-pointer in Philippines, down Vanuatu, all the way up, and then coming down the Pacific side of South America and Central America, Mexico, Chile, all major fucking earthquakes in the 5s, at least in the 5s, and all within 24 hours. So we're talking some seriously crazy shit. Now, on a personal level here, I was talking to a group of people and joking about the fact that we had a really bizarre low tide about 2 weeks ago. And we occasionally, the Mediterranean, as I explained before, doesn't have tides like the Atlantic and the Pacific. Like a high tide and low tide, the difference between high tide and low tide is like, I don't know, maybe a meter. Maybe a meter. You don't see the big tides going. So, but every so often you'll have like a really low tide, but that only lasts for like 12 hours. And then the water levels are right back to where they were before. Well, when I was talking about going crystal hunting, going rock hounding, because we had a really low tide, so we could get to a bay that we can't get to unless the water's really calm and really low. We've been at low tide for 2 weeks now. The tide never came back. The water levels on the rocks, I was showing Sarah today, you can see, like on the piers, this concrete piers, the cement piers, etc., you can see where the water level should be. And we are now, all the piers, the water level is that much lower. A minimum of a foot, between 8 inches and a foot, that the water level across the board where we are has dropped. And it's been gone for 2 weeks. It hasn't come back. We've talked about these. We've talked about them for a year now. We had Bahamas, we had Florida, we had Louisiana, we had places where we've seen like the massive where the tide goes out and it fucking goes out, like way the hell out. But it always seems to come back. But now we're talking about in our area where I am in the Mediterranean, it's been a 2-week drop and it hasn't come back. What the hell is going on? And it's, we're looking at really, really weird shit happening. Some big ass earthquakes again. Now, someone brought up in the chat geomagnetic storm. Yes, there was a geomagnetic storm because we know geomagnetic storms can trigger volcanoes and earthquakes, etc. But the geomagnetic storm that happened, I just have teased this up, was the evening, late afternoon of the 5th and into the late night, early this morning on the 6th. And it only hit a G2. A G2 storm is not a big storm. That's not like a major geomagnetic storm. That's a really minor storm. So if we're talking about geomagnetic storms and trying to cross-reference, we have not seen a major geomagnetic storm in months since we've seen a really big one. Yeah, Megan, we have a leak. Yes, someone has pulled the plug. There's a crack in the plug and the water's just slowly draining out of the Mediterranean, apparently. And okay, Norm, that's really interesting because we've actually had private conversations on this topic. Cliff High talked about the premise of the expanding planet is expanding. If the planet's expanding, of course, you're going to see crustal movement of the Earth's crust, and you're going to see the water levels. If the planet's getting bigger, the water levels are going to drop to compensate for the land mass or the new expansion mass. We have talked about that, and I've looked at that. I've watched that theory for about 5 years. I've kind of played. That's one of the theories I've played with. But it doesn't explain everything. So I always go back to that, trying to find a place, an explanation, a theory where all these pieces fit together a little better. Do you know what I'm saying? And my daughter's going to choke to death on her tea over here. It's okay, and I'm teasing you. Ashley, would you mind talking about, Ashley is on Maui. I was trying to get a hold of Annette as well, who's also on Maui, to talk about what's been going on, because of course the people in Hawaii are a lot closer to knowing what the fuck is actually happening. Are you there, Ashley?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, because I've never done this before on my little tablet, so I apologize.
No problem. You're clear as a bell.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, I'm on Maui. I'm on the east side, so I'm kind of close to Big Island. We can't see it from here, but you can see Big Island from, just down the road, but you can't really see the volcanoes or anything like that. But it's definitely been interesting for me. I'm kind of an earthquake predictor in my own body. Like I'll get headaches or wobbly feelings and stuff like that. And this time I didn't so much get headaches as I got just super sloshy. And even my daughter described the same thing, where she was lying on the beach when the bigger earthquake happened, and she literally felt the sloshiness go through her body. So it kind of feels like that, like the water's moving a lot, the tides are shifting a lot. So that's been my experience on Maui, is just, you can feel it. I don't know if I do my camera, you can see how low the clouds are, and the fog. We have what's called fog here, where we get all of that volcanic, kind of air flowing through, and it's really super sticky and thick, and it affects everybody. And it's super affecting people. I mean, I can't even imagine if I'm feeling this here, what are they feeling there, we're about the closest from Maui to Big Island there's a 26-mile difference if you're, about 15 miles south of me.
Yeah.
So it's not that far.
So did you guys physically feel the earthquake? That was one of the questions I had. And I've been trying to get a hold of Annette. We've been playing messenger tag.
I was sitting on my porch and I could hear all of a sudden, I usually feel the earthquakes. We do get a lot of rumblings. And this time I was like, wow, my house is making this strange creaking noise. What's going on? And I could literally hear and feel the banging, and I have a post house, so you can kind of feel it wobble.
It starts swaying like the palm trees a little bit.
I could feel it first. That was what was weird. This, normally I can feel kind of that low level vibration. I usually go, you guys feel that? Everybody stop, and I can feel that sort of low level vibration when it comes to, but this time I heard it first because I could hear the bolts of the house making that, like it was literally banging.
Creaking. Wow.
Yeah. So it was, and so we did have like about 2006, we had a 7.1 and a 7.3, I think within 10 minutes apart of each other on Big Island. And that literally, people said they saw the waves come through. Like you could literally see the waves, the ground moving. So what's interesting is that since the crater dropped, that lava just dropped 1,000 feet, they said.
Yep.
My low back went out. And I literally, my low back went out, my stomach dropped, everything. Like I literally dropped myself. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I've been trying to evaluate it all. And I'm a body worker already. I do craniosacral work. So I definitely have all of those, feelings and understandings of how that works. So
it's really interesting because there's a couple of people have posted in the Unfuckers group on Facebook earlier this week and have said things like, does the gravity feel a little heavy today?
Heavy.
Heavy, like gravity just feels like it's a little heavier, like when you're moving you feel like you're kind of having to use more exertion to move through it.
I feel like it's an
measuring that
thing
fluctuation.
It's just an interesting thing to be so close and know that we're that physically connected to how the earth moves, literally, that there's no separation there. And I feel like, for everything that everybody talks about, because I usually only have time to listen. I don't ever get to participate. And, but it just seems like, that whole idea of as above, so below. I mean, we're really doing this whole, our bodies are those antennas, and we really are that. We really do have that connection, and we really are, we are the scientists, we are the observers, we are the ones that need to record this and say, hey, this is real.
This is very real. Very, very real.
When I'm sitting around, I'm like, all right, everybody, I feel like there's going to be an earthquake somewhere. And they go, oh, really? And now they don't even question it anymore because it happens every time. Because somehow I have that antenna. And so I think we all do, we all just have to.
If you're tuned into it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my experience. I just wanted to add that in because it's been definitely a physical one for me.
No, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. With the reports, like I said, from people are going through physically feeling, etc. Like people feel denser, like Gail just said, walking through treacle, walking through molasses. Like it's everything just feels that little bit more. And not everyone. I actually didn't feel that myself this week, but there was enough people saying that and asking that specific question: does gravity feel heavier? Which I thought was really an interesting choice of words, right? Dust storms, okay? Trina just said we just had a massive dust storm kick up across the valley in the last 5 minutes. Where are you, Trina? Oregon. That's what I thought. So we're seeing some really, really strange shit. Now, one of the subjects I don't talk about much, because unfortunately, a lot of times if you get into the conversation kind of gets pulled always in one direction. And that is the subject of Nibiru, or the second sun, or the planet, or the pick one, put it in the sky somewhere, and that's the basic subject. There is so much out there on Nibiru. And a lot of it gets put in this Sitchin folder, right? And therefore, you say Nibiru, everything gets then defined by what his purported definitions were. And I'm coming up with some new stuff and just kind of recently been going, yeah, but was his stuff co-opted? Was his stuff co-opted to create this something that is a distraction, but, you know, kind of like maybe perhaps that whole 75% truth and then 25% bullshit to kind of keep things all fucking mixed up. But we've seen pictures. Now, we've talked about them for a couple of years now, but in the last year especially, we've seen a shit ton of photos and videos that show something in the sky. Whether it's, whether you want to call it a second sun, whether you want to call it another planet, whether you want to call it another something or other. Hold on, Jane. Let me see if that is the one. Give me a second, guys, because it was a photo that was dropped into Unfuckers. It was taken by one of our Unfuckers. Yep, that's the one. Thank you. It was Tracy. I thought it was Tracy. I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. I've lost Zoom again. Where's Zoom? There's Zoom. Okay. Okay. So this is a photo that was taken by one of our Unfuckers. This isn't like I heard this, I saw this, I found this on the internet. This is, she saw it with her own eyes, grabbed a camera, and not only could she see it with her own eyes, but actually the camera took the photo too. This isn't lens flare. When someone can see it with their own eyes, it's not lens flare. It's not like, there is no explanation as far as I'm concerned. You can't say it's a reflection off of, there's nothing for it to reflect off of. It can't be the clouds behind it because, well, gee, we have a problem. If the clouds are behind the sun and it's reflecting back, we have a problem, Houston. Okay. This is a 100% guaranteed legit photo. Not screenshot, not photoshopped, nothing. What is it? And I get back to the whole thing of like, weird, look at our week this week. Now this photo was taken, I think, what day was that taken? May 1st, and I think she said she took it the day before. So either that day, she either took it May 1st or the day before, so like April 30th. Okay? We have stuff like this. Now, if we're looking at, in fact, there is a secondary planetary body, whatever, whether you want to call it a sun, you want to call it a planet, you want to call it whatever. A spaceship, doesn't matter. It's fucking big in the sky. And we look at what's going on physically on the planet with the weather patterns changing radically all over the planet. And it's not, this has been an uptick where it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse since pretty much 2015. If I look at 2015 as being kind of almost like a point where, at least for me, we started, and all of us who were doing the shows then, we started really noticing bizarre weather, bizarre things happening that there was no explanation for. It has been like exponentially increasing. And if something was getting closer to our planet, then I would expect that kind of an increase of bizarre occurrences. Things like water shifting. Could that explain it? Could that explain the reason why the tides are completely, seemingly fucked all over the place? And here's the thing. I'm in Malta. Our waters have dropped. Is there another area of the Mediterranean where the waters have suddenly gone up? So if we were to get in contact with someone in Greece or off the coast of Syria, would they say, oh, fuck, the waters rose by 1.5 feet overnight? I don't know. I don't have contacts over there to be able to find out, hey, guys, could you go measure what your water levels are in your area of the Mediterranean? Now, okay, Jane, you bring up the whole thing about the sun simulator. Okay, we've talked about that theory before, that our sun is a simulated sun and that maybe that is our real sun kind of showing through. We don't know. Maybe, could be. But for me, looking at it from the fact, just even today, it was a really big one for me today. I was sitting there going, I have to revisit this whole subject, even though I hate talking about it. Geological occurrences, volcanoes, earthquakes. And okay, you talk about prophecy and things like the Hopi Indians. They talk about the Kachinas. And when the red Kachina, for example, if I'm not, please somebody correct me if I'm not saying this right. You'd see the blue Kachina in the sky, but there was also the red Kachina, and the red Kachina would bring with it earthquakes, volcanoes, bizarre weather, flooding. So is that one of those things? So they foretold it. The Hopi Indians put that down as a prophecy, but because it was foretold because they'd already lived through it once before. I don't know. I'm throwing open the floor to you guys. I wanna discuss this. And Gail, I'm dragging you into this because I know you've been doing a lot of research on this over the last little while. Is this something that we have to really look at?
Danny, I was watching the Mandela Effect video, and the guy on the video, he was saying how there is no more fall or spring. There's only now winter and summer. And to me that makes sense. If time is speeding up, okay, as we know it is, then there would not be enough time to actually go through the full cycle of the progression of the seasons. So that makes sense to me.
And you know what, but again, we could also look at that because I was just joking about that on Tuesday. Last Tuesday, I was joking about that because it was so glorious weather here in Gozo, like summertime. And I was like, apparently we're not having spring this year. Apparently we went right from like winter. We had 2 weeks of kind of in between lots of rain and the wind, but not quite so cold. And then we were in summer.
Mm-hmm. And we're having
Fred's over there, like I said, in Romania. Brianna's in Romania. It's 30 degrees in Romania. The last week of April and the first week of May. What? Seriously?
It's weird.
It absolutely is. Yeah, Gail, 4 weeks ago, you guys had snow.
Yeah. Hey, Danny?
Yeah, love.
I just sent you an image on Facebook Messenger. There's something that's been going through the solar system for like the past week. And you can, if you set this up so it's like a bunch of images, you can watch this thing going from right to left on
Okay, so this is in Sechi?
Yes.
Okay, so then do you have the link to what are you using for Sechi? Are you on the Sechi site?
Here, let me. No, this is Sechi, NRL, Navy, military.
Okay, let me see if we can pull it up. Well, no, I'm not going to do that because if I start pulling and pulling up video, it's going to get really bad, really, really fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so something to look at is the Sechi stuff. So I don't know. Have we seen? I have been kind of really out of the loop all week because I've had guests coming and I've had a lot of stuff to do and all kinds of crazy shit. So I haven't been watching the science sites. I haven't been watching the usual people who talk about this kind of stuff. Is it being talked about? As far as other people talking about something that's coming through the Milky Way and they've seen evidence of. I know that there was supposed to have been another close flyby of an asteroid. What was it, 2 days ago, 3 days ago? Near miss, end of the world type shit. So it is being talked about.
Yeah, the only place that I'm really connecting with that is on the Yellow Rose for Texas Facebook site. I got this call to, like, you got to go and track what's going on here for a bit, and so I popped in there. Some really interesting things are going on out there, and if you want woo-woo, the Yellow Rose for Texas stuff is about the best you're gonna get out there. It's fun. It's seriously fun woo-woo stuff.
Hold on, I gotta pull my hair up. I'm getting
so I'm pretty much taking it face value. There's been a couple things that have happened out while I've been on the page, and there's this thing that is going through the solar system. I will see if I can find a video and get that posted.
Do you guys? Yeah, please do. Do you guys remember when Cliff High and I did the interview together? And at that point in time, there's the big cigar-shaped ship. There's a big cigar something or other that they kept trying to call was an asteroid, and the terminology that was coming out of NASA was just like laughable. I mean, really, it was laughable. That was it. They're supposed to be at the very edge of the solar system. Now, I didn't track that. I couldn't keep up with all the stuff that was going on at that time. So I have no idea if it came through the solar system and left, if it is still coming through the solar system. No clue. I didn't have a chance to follow up on that, so I don't know. This is the thing. We're seeing bizarre fucking shit in the sky. And we've talked about the fact that chemtrails are so bloody heavy right now. We've actually had 2 days of almost no chemtrails. It is the first 2 days of actual blue sky that we have seen here in Malta in what feels like months. Now, it probably hasn't been months, but it feels like it. It literally feels like we've had just chemtrail haze over the sky. And when we didn't have the chemtrail haze, we had sandstorms for 2 weeks solid. Yep. So the sky was like completely messed up as well. We have dust storms all over the place, which is a great way to obliterate what's in the sky as well. Isn't that just convenient? And we have, as I keep talking about, the political bullshit. And it is insane, the political bullshit. It's like they are just trying everything they can to keep people distracted. And now, of course, it's Iran, right? Like North Korea is taking care of itself. So now we're just going to, like I always say, switch focus over here to Iran now. Are they trying to keep us, if they just keep beating on the World War III drum enough, to keep people from taking notice of shit that's in the sky and the shit that's physically happening to us, like the physical unbelievable crap that we're all feeling and have been going through? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think there's a lot more of us on here that are really interested in this system than we've actually let on, shall we say. I started started researching it when I was researching ancient technology, and that's how I started to look into Nibiru. But then I became a sky watcher and started taking photos of the sun a lot. And I found that, I soon found out about the sun, the lens flare, and you could eliminate that. But you can see a lot in the lens flare. And I've got some amazing pictures that you can, because Nibiru is part of a system. So there are, I think is it 5, 7 moons, other planets with it, And I've actually got a picture where you can see 5 of the moons within the flare. And
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I'll send, I'll send you the I think I did it a little while ago, put a load of my most interesting pictures that I had up in the
Okay,
Unfuckers room.
make sure you send them to me so I can actually like try and put it all together.
Okay, I'll send that.
Hey, they call that the TRAPPIST system.
The TRAPPIST
There we go.
system? Yeah.
TRAPPIST.
Yeah, I know. TRAPPIST?
Yeah, I'm driving, so I may be going in and out here, but it's the TRAPPIST system. Yeah.
Yes, I have heard that.
Yeah, so
Hey, Danny, do you remember when Cliff Hyde said that they would be stopping the chemtrailing at some point this year? That was brought up in his
In one of his reports? Yep.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. They certainly haven't stopped yet. I mean, like I said, we've had a 2-day break, which has been delightful. But yeah, I highly doubt it stopped, considering it's still going on everywhere else. Go ahead, Gail. What were you saying there, love?
forgot my train of thought now. I was just going to sort through some pictures and send them to you, and then you can share them if you like.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I'll do that.
what do you guys think then? I mean, like I said, I like to think that we're a group who can toss every single theory on the table and take a good look at it, and look at it from a place of as an observer, not getting too tied into, the whole belief structures and all the rest of it. It seems, like I said, there's got to be something that they're blocking. The quintessential they, the cabal, the shadow government, the fucking whoever you want to call them. There's something that they are blocking or trying to block us from seeing, trying to keep us distracted from. And, like I said, with the insanity of the weather and the volcanoes and the earthquakes and all the rest of this shit. Because are they really talking about it? Like, I don't know about you guys, because like I said, I've had a really fucking busy weekend. Are they talking about Hawaii's volcano that much in the mainstream? I mean, I know that all our alternative guys, people like Dutch Synth, like WSO and those kind of guys, those guys are all over this. I mean, Etna blew just a couple of weeks ago again. I mean, that's not unheard of, but it did a rather lovely song and dance. Okay, well, so Brianna, if gravity is changing, and like we said, hypothesize, we'll throw it on the table, changes to gravity, that whether it's a cause or an effect, massive land shifting, lots of things going on. I've always hypothesized that gravity could be affected by other elemental forces, if you will, such as magnetics and electrical energy, etc. So are we seeing certain shifts? But again, we don't know, it's chicken and the egg. Which is causing it? Are they both just symptoms? Are they just symptoms of something else? Or, for example, is a gravity shift being caused by geomagnetics, or vice versa? The geomagnetic fluctuations being caused by gravity shifting? I don't know. Yeah, Deb, no, see, I hear what you're saying, right? So Deb just said, we're waking up and they're freaking out, desperately trying to take back control, and it's not working. Absolutely. But at this point, I honestly think there's more to it than that. I think that whatever they're trying to distract us from is even bigger. I mean, to the point of, I think those of us being awake are almost secondary, if you will, to whatever this other shit is that's going on, that they're trying to keep, because it's not just the people who are awake, it's they got to keep the people who are asleep really, really fucking distracted, because you start questioning, If you look up in the sky and you see bizarre crap in the sky, like, let's face it, we've seen some seriously wild shit in the sky. What you're going to start questioning. You're going to start going, what the hell? What's going on here? Where did spring go? Why is there fucking floods over like every fucking country on the planet? It seems just having flash floods. How can there be flash floods all over the entire planet, all at the same time in the same week? And what happened to all the water in the Mediterranean? Like, these are the kind of questions, you can't hide this from the general population for very long, because people are going to wake up more and more and more and more. And I think at this point, it feels to me like those of us who are awake and who are watching and reporting on this stuff, it's inconvenient to them, but there's something much, much bigger that they're trying to keep hidden. Much, much bigger. That is, yeah, Russia did it. Russia took all the water and they caused the earthquakes. And yeah, it was all Russia.
Hey, Danny?
Yeah, love.
I got a video just posted a video to the Facebook site.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
What's going on in Antarctica?
I haven't been watching Antarctica, so I don't.
That's been coming up a lot, and I'm, you know, why are they going there? Something's going on there. I don't know what it is. I'm still going down those rabbit holes. But you know, I don't know.
It's a good question.
The veil's thinning because more people are waking up, and the more people that wake up, it's like the 100th monkey syndrome, you know? We're all just waking up, and then they're freaking out because they can't stop it.
I can't see the content. David, I'm sorry. I just will try to. It won't let me open the link because it may be a private. Is it a private group link from Yellow Rose of Texas?
Possibly. I will find the person who posted that and see if I can get a copy of the video and get that up.
Yeah, because it won't let me open it at all.
Good to know. Thank you.
Sorry, Darlene, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure that Dave knew that we couldn't open his video.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. I think it's interesting that all this talk is going on about Antarctica. I think more people are waking up, and in all areas, not just like what we're doing, but in the scientific area.
Yeah.
You know, just to various and everybody's collectively we're coming out of our stupor. So what are they going to do about it? They can't stop us. They're afraid of that. Because
absolutely.
That's why they try to silence people and mix the lies in with the truth, because they don't want us to remember, but we do have it in us. I'm thinking, if we do, why can't we together doing what we're doing, why can't we vibrate to a higher, like, you know what I mean? Can't we outsmart those son of bitches?
Fuck them if they can't take a joke. No, I agree. Hold on. Okay, so Igor, that was the quote, and Ben and I have actually mentioned it several times, and I just realized I have the link. You have to give me a second though, because finding the link is not necessarily easy.
And have any of you guys seen the water? Speaking of the water, you know, your tide going out. I've seen a couple of videos where there are pools of water, and it's like somebody pulled the plug. I've seen it at a dam. There was another one in a lake somewhere. I'm not sure where it was. I saw that like 6 months ago. Where's that water going? Is anybody? Why
that's the question. What? That's the fucking.
Why does anybody know about it?
Because we keep hearing about the water disappearing. Now we're hearing about floods. Okay, so we're hearing about massive floods. So torrential downpours and flooding. Is the water somehow being evaporated up? What goes up must come down? Now, okay, so now I'm gonna really, really open the door for like way out in left field theories. We talked about gravity. What if you have like some kind of wild gravitational anomaly and the water just kind of, a big chunk of ass water kind of gets taken up, which re-levels out whatever's left down below? Well, if the water's up in the atmosphere, it has to come down. At some point, it can't stay up there. Even if it dissipates within the atmosphere, it's got to come down.
Or could it get sunk into the earth?
And that's one of the theories that we've talked about too, is If the Earth, and we go look at the expanding Earth theory. Good night, sweetie. You look at the expanding Earth theory, and cracks and fissures opening up. We've seen it all over the place. God, how many of us have been tracking the holes that have been opening up in the Earth since 2011? The Louisiana sinkhole? Anyone? Right?
That's right.
We've seen this stuff. So we have massive holes opening up. So let's, again, expanding Earth theory is that the Earth is a ball, it's a fly, who cares, whatever it is. It's a trapezoid. I don't care. Earth is a planet, and it's actually getting bigger. And as it's getting bigger, as you can imagine, the land is cracking. The crust is cracking in places because it's getting spread thin as it's stretching bigger. Okay, so there's cracks appear, and Dutch Synths actually followed one, and oh, this was really interesting. It was in 2015. There was an earthquake in the Indian Ocean. And he was talking about an earthquake in the Indian Ocean, and then he was talking about you followed the water buoys. Because you have signal buoys that are all over the oceans, right? Which signal water level increases, etc. And two of the buoys showed a rise of something ludicrous, and I can't remember what the actual amount was, but it was ludicrous. It was like there was a rise in the ocean floor by like 50 feet, 100 feet, something like that. Like something absolutely tremendous. We hear about things like islands all of a sudden appearing and creating themselves. Right? There was the one off the coast of the US, the eastern coast of the US, that was like a big joke. There was several of them off the coast of India, where the government's going, would you please get off the new formed island? It's not geologically safe. Cracks, expanding. Is the water falling through a crack? You get a crack in the ocean floor, and the water literally, quite frankly, there's a crack in the plug, and it's fucking draining out.
You know, also.
And maybe, sorry, go ahead, Jane.
Oh, I was going to say, because we talk about the possibility of these there, there could be a pull, obviously, and gravity is absolutely involved, but a pull on the planet, causing, the oceans to kind of spill or whatever. You know what I mean?
Any theory can be put on. Look, we can literally throw the theories on the table because we don't have answers, and we're not going to get answers from the fucking talking heads.
No.
Right? But it's one of those things. For example, if we're talking, we've seen a massive amount of earthquakes and volcanoes for the last 2 years, and they have been increasing. And we have times where they peter off a little bit, and then they get a huge amount of them again. What if you get a crack that forms? There's an earthquake that forms a crack, and it's in the ocean, and water is leaking through to God knows some other place, and magma flows, and it then seals up the crack after a little while. As the magma. So we're watching the rivers of lava right now in Hawaii. The magma seals it off. All of the earthquakes in the big island of Hawaii are offshore. They're all down at the very southernmost point, and it's just off the shores where the epicenters are. Okay. If water levels drop, and does the magma then seal it back up after a while? I don't know.
Plus,
but we
have the shift. They say that we've been shifting. But then I've also heard, but that's all normal. But I think the shifting, of the poles has been pretty extensive. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've said for years, for me, back in 2011, I started really tracking what the Inuit were saying. What the Eskimo tribes were saying is like, hey, dudes, the sun is not in the same place anymore. We've tilted on our axis. The sun is not in the same place. The moon's not in the right place. Everything is changing. And the idea being, of course, the closer you are up to the pole, the North Pole in this case, when you talk about Inuit, they have a much more radical view to be able to see this stuff because of their location on the planet. They can see a much bigger change than where if you were at the equator, You may not see that big a shift in the change from where the sun rises and sets. I have talked about this for years, where I have watched the sun rise in places and gone, there's no fucking way the sun can rise there. There's no fucking way the sun can be rising there. We've discussed it for years. We've had people call in on these shows in 2014, 2015, 2016, people who've lived in their house their entire life. And they're saying, yeah, all of a sudden the sun's rising in my kitchen window. I've been here 35 years. The sun has never, ever in any season risen to shine in my kitchen window. It's not possible. It's never happened. So we have this kind of stuff going on. So I took that for many years. I took that as literally as a physical thing. The earth is tilting, and that's why the weather patterns, and that's why the earthquakes and the volcanoes is because the earth is actually shifting on its axis. But while I still like that theory a lot, it doesn't answer the shit that we're seeing in the sky.
No, it doesn't. And especially when you consider the possibility of there really being a sun simulator. I mean, the patents are out there, and I've been looking at that theory now for a couple of years. You know, for the longest time, I thought, well, you know, I don't know anything about that. But the more
okay, Jane, would you give us a rundown? Could you give everyone a brief idea of sorry, me. I need another cup of tea. What the sun simulated theory? Because I know Gail's been looking at that. I know Igor has been looking at that a lot. I'd like you guys give us, pretend no one has any knowledge on this, and if you can kind of give us a little bit of an explanation of what that theory is, what they think is going on.
Well, I don't know what they think is going on. I know what they're trying to do and what they've successfully been doing up until this point.
Okay.
And that is, you know, placing a huge light up there. Well, not necessarily up there. It's, you know, in space. And however they are pulling however they pull it off camera-wise and stuff like that, I don't know. But the information is all there to read. But my thing is, my question is, if this is really going on, and I do suspect it is, but if it's really going on, how the hell long do they think they can keep this up? You know, it's a machine.
And is there an end game?
Right.
This has been my question, and I want to get some more people to chime in on the sun simulated thing. Like Gail, if you want to chime in, or Igor, I don't know what your internet's like, love tonight. If there's a simulated sun, why? Number one question, why? Is it new? Is it relatively like, when I say new, I mean, i.e. it hasn't been sitting in the sky for like 20,000 years. Is it new?
I don't think it's new. I think it's since this generation has grown up.
Okay, but still, that I consider to be new.
Right, right.
Let's even if you say it's like it happened in the 60s, it happened in the 50s, it happened in the 70s. Comparative to the Earth, I still consider that to be new. So, if it is something that has happened in this last generation, why was it done? For what reason?
The sun is dying.
Okay. That is a theory that's been out there for a long time. Of course, the sun is dying, and they're trying to keep everyone calm. Basically, stop the whole
I don't know that I agree with that.
in the street.
Yeah, right.
Jane, you mentioned WSO, which is the Wormwood System Observation Gang. I think it was 2015, the end of 2015. I think it was the SETI images. I don't know if you saw it, where they actually could see what looked like, I suppose, a big satellite, a huge object that was arced with a triangular back to it. That was. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yes, and they could even see. Yeah. Yep.
So that's when that's when the whole simulation thing started to come into light, and the fact that our sun has changed so dramatically. It's gone from what we classically know as children as the golden
Yellow
sunlight.
sun.
It's now white.
That's right.
White. I got diagnosed, was it last week I said to you, Danny? With cataracts, and I was told that it's because of sunlight. It's because of the UV rays.
It's just asinine as far as I'm concerned.
You know, and like a huge part of me thought, fuck, I observe the sun so much. I take photographs. I try obviously not to look too much through the lens, and so I don't damage my eyes, but I do a lot of photography of the sun. But I talked to him as if he knew what was going on, and he said about the sunlight. Have you noticed that you're struggling in the sunlight? And I just said to him straight off that, well, it's changed, hasn't it? And he looked at me as if to, what are you talking about? Your eyes have changed, and I had to zip it. And
Your eyes.
I was like, oh, I really want to say something. I can't. But yeah, so this whole sun simulation, but the photographs that I sent you, Danny, there are some of them where you get that petal, so you get the 9 petals, which are a square. They're a square formation around our sun.
Capture.
And you can actually, in some of the pictures that I haven't sent to you, there's you can actually, is it the Fretzel? Is it, no, what's it called? The Fretzel lens?
Yes.
Which is the lens that they put in front of the lighthouses to make the light spread more. You can actually see the formation of the lens. So yeah, it's something
And
that
we've seen it, same thing, bizarre pictures of the sun with black squares in them.
Oh, I've sent you
Yeah, because I remember you posting that one.
Black squares in the middle of the sun.
You can say things like, oh, it's from the flash, it's from the camera, it's from the... But when... I'm sorry. Is it we've all of a sudden got new technology in our cameras that make it happen? Because people have been taking pictures of the sun for ages, and there's no pictures of this kind of shit in the sun.
Hey, Danny, what about this? Could this also potentially explain the UV rays, you know, the high rates of radiation? You know what I mean?
This is, okay, so this is, it goes into one of the other theories that I have. But first I want to talk about, because you need to said, whoa, what was that? Hold on. There we go. Uni just said vitamin D deficiency. What did I keep talking about? The entire fucking planet is vitamin D deficient. I've analyzed, like if you look at vitamin D deficiency, go look up the symptoms of vitamin D deficiency and tell me if not every single one of us has got it, probably at least 50% of those symptoms. I sit in the sun. I live in a Mediterranean country. I have access to sunlight, good, strong sunlight, at least 8 months a year. And I'm out there at in February, sitting in the sun every single day that I can. And I'm vitamin D deficient. Okay, wait. There's a problem here. So that goes into that. If you want to put a scoreboard up and go simulated sun, that goes into like the tick on the simulated sun. It's not a natural sunlight.
No doubt.
You have we've always watched the playoff between the alternative media and the mainstream media, and I've said for years that half the alternative media shit is just a distraction as well. So you have the whole thing about, for example, increasing radiation levels, exactly what you said, massively increasing radiation levels. Oh, but wait, everyone blames it on Fukushima, which is very, very handy to do. And they blame things like mass animal die-offs on Fukushima. Okay, wait. When whales are beaching themselves on the coast of England, you can't really logically say that's, Fukushima. Okay? The people in Japan, they're not all dead. I have a cousin who lives in Japan. She's lived in Japan for 25 years. She's not dead. Her daughter does not have 6 eyes. They do not have symptoms of radiation poisoning. So if it's Fukushima, wouldn't it, and if all this radiation that they're seeing across North America now, they claim, is being blamed on Fukushima, wouldn't the people in Japan be showing that much more signs of radiation poisoning? Now, we know the radiation is increasing. People like Cliff High, and I think Big Swear was doing it as well, going out with their Geiger counters, and they're going out and taking measurements, and they're proving that what was at 5 rads before is now at 25 rads. Ann Callahan and I have been talking nonstop for the last, 8 months, Ann? That a lot of the symptoms that people are experiencing are very much radiation symptoms, radiation sickness symptoms. A lot of what we're experiencing. Okay, wait a second. So again, where's that radiation coming from? Now, the excuse that we get, we've got this lovely new theory that there's a hole in our geomagnetic shield and solar radiation is coming in. These solar winds are coming in. You got high energy particles coming in. Okay, yep, there's a theory. Throw it on the table. But does that also explain all the other shit that's going on? No, it doesn't. And that's, for me, is I'm always looking for the unified theory. I'm looking for the unified theory that you can find the one thing that goes, does it explain what we're seeing in the sky? Does it explain the weather changes? Does it explain massive earthquakes and volcanoes? Does it explain physical symptoms that we're all feeling? Does it explain that the sun is now rising in a different spot in the sky than it used to rise 10 years ago? Does it explain that the sun's a different color from what it was 10 years ago? Does it explain the massive amount of distractions that are continuously being played out on us? And you throw it all on the table and say, what sticks?
I was going to say real quick, you mentioned something else that struck my, everything you said just triggered it, the effects from everything and things even showing up on our bodies. It's kind of in numbers that weren't there before, and your fingernails start to like curve down on the ends, and my fingernails have been odd for like a couple of years now, and I've got scabs showing up on my body that I don't know where the fuck they're coming from. It's like I don't know, I'm not assuming anything, but it's just I'm sure some of you have got experiencing weird shit that you weren't expecting on your body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's another symptom, if you will, that you throw onto the list. And you say things like, we have hair issues. Like hair, fucking everyone I know has got serious hair issues at the moment. Your hair's dry. It's like you can feel the dirt in your hair, the gunk that's in your hair. And like I said, for years, when we were in Morocco, I blamed it on the fact that all the houses are built out of concrete. And it was like, so that concrete dust is fucking everywhere. And I blamed that my hair was in such terrible condition. And everyone would say, well, it's because you bleach your hair. And I'm like, yeah. But my daughter, who's the natural redhead, doesn't bleach her hair. And her hair is in just as bad a condition as mine. My son, whose hair is obviously not bleached or colored, his hair is just as bad a condition as mine. Then we moved to Australia. You know what? It didn't go away. Now we're in Malta. You know what? Didn't go away. Well, this is another piece. There's something different. The air is different. There's stuff in the air that is different. Now, is it chemtrails? Is it the shit that they're raining down on us every single fucking day? Does that explains breathing problems? Sure, it absolutely does. But again, like you say, different things. Skin afflictions are coming up. How much of that? And you can unmute anytime you want. We talk about things like breathing problems, skin problems. That can all be radiation as well.
Internal changes.
Yeah, you just said a key thing there. I was going to say real quick, when you said, like you said, Jenny, he lived in like what, 3 or 4 different places just around, and his hair stayed the same. Basically, it followed him anywhere he went. It was no change. Yeah. Who was it? Someone just said something this for speaking of some good lady, whichever one you want.
Jane. What were you saying, Jane?
I was just saying, remember we talked about the internal changes that we've been learning about as well.
Absolutely.
DNA changes. Oh, remember also the new finding on additional DNA and new.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to fucking research that yet, Jane. Thank you for reminding me. I need to go dig into that. They found a new strand of DNA.
There's so much that goes into this pot, Danny. It's hard to, you can't just put our finger on one thing, you know?
Yep.
There's so many elements to this.
Well, this is it. And then you take into, again, so we talk about, for example, and we'll throw it on the table. Because let's say this is the discussion where we're going to throw fucking everything on the table. The whole quintessential, the event. And I've hypothesized for years that what I ever felt in that whole topic of the event comes up, the idea of that something galactic, something solar, if you will, could be the trigger that triggers our DNA. That triggers our DNA to turn back on again with all this, latent DNA, this junk DNA that we purportedly have, and the whole sections of our brain that we don't fucking use. So I've always gone with the opinion of, that's always been one of my strong theories, is that high energy particles coming from the galactic center, coming from somewhere out in space, whatever you want to call it, could be coming in and could be changing our DNA. And there have been multiple fucking scientific papers that have been written talking about we are in this high energy photon belt and all this stuff is going in. All this stuff is coming in and they don't know how it's going to affect us, et cetera, since 2011. And some of the earlier articles were even earlier. They were like in the 90s, late 90s. The Russian guy, I've forgotten his name again. The Russian scientist that talked about this. Okay, so here's another thing. We're talking high energy particles. What was that, Ihor?
Kozyrev.
Yes, that's it. See, I can never even say it properly. I need you to pronounce it for me.
No problem.
Our Russian translator says, so yeah, high energy particles coming in. So the changes that we're experiencing physically, the stuff that we're seeing, stuff that we're hearing, all the rest of it, is this a symptom of the physical changes that we're going through that is due to some high energy particles, whatever you want to call it.
Fire has changed.
What, love?
Fire.
How so?
Fire has, to me, it looks like it's computer generated now. And it doesn't have the multiple colors that you usually get with fire. When you usually have like a blue or orangish, like a darker orange color, and sometimes with the flame. But now it's like all orange, and the smoke is even different now with fire.
See, here's the interesting thing with fire, though, Earl, right? Because fire changes color with whatever you're burning, right? So even different kinds of wood will generate different kinds of, for example, pressure-treated lumber burns differently than normal wood that you pick up in the forest, for example. But you also got to look at the elements that are in shit. Now you're talking about a deeper point of if certain elements have shifted, they burn differently. If you have higher levels of oxygen, the flame is a different color. If you have higher levels of CO2, the flame is a different color. If you have higher levels of sulfur, which we've been talking about in chemtrails, higher levels of aluminum, again in chemtrails, it will change the essence of whatever it is that you're burning, even if you're just burning paper.
But it's also with the way the fire moves. It doesn't look natural, like how fire normally moves as well.
Hey,
to me anyway.
Remember, it was like a couple of years ago, I think, where we were told that the planet had actually moved across some area.
Into another part of the galaxy?
Remember, it was just like a couple of years ago.
Yep, 2015.
There you go. And
Okay.
so I'm just wondering with that, perhaps maybe has something to do with the sun rising more in the north and, things like this.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. It's another piece that we throw on the table.
Right. That's all I'm doing.
Yep, absolutely, Jane. No. It's another piece that we throw on the table, because we throw that on the table and we say,
well, things are
those of us remember we were not in the middle of the fucking galaxy. We were out on the little outer edge of some buttfuck galaxy.
Well, you know what? So much has happened over the last few years that, we forget. I mean, not really forget, but you have to stop and remember, what are
Absolutely. I joke saying I wish I had room for a ginormous whiteboard. So that every things you could go up to the whiteboard, just add a little note in, and it'd be like, wait, we talked about this. Wait, someone turn to the other side of the whiteboard around. Okay, so John, JC, so here was one of the questions I had. Thank you for actually saying that, because one of the questions that I had, we keep talking about things like a second sun, Nibiru, etc., but we're also supposed to be getting closer to the galactic sun. And one of my thoughts is that second thing that we're seeing, that second source of light, sometimes just there, is that the galactic central sun that we're suddenly seeing because we've shifted to a new part of the galaxy?
If the models are correct, we're a very, very long ways away from that.
We should be, but the galactic central sun is also supposed to be like 10 bajillion size bigger than our sun. I don't know. I'm just throwing it on the table.
And could that be some of the reason why they're trying to hide these, things in the sky with the chemtrails and such?
Well,
And
we're in a completely new part of space.
Right.
You got to remember, the sun isn't stationary, the planets don't orbit it. The sun is moving, and the planets are being dragged along with it.
Yep.
The best model we have right now. Chances are that's wrong. But based on that, and also what we know from the measurements, we're north of the galactic equator now. We're in a completely different part of space. The polarity is different. There's a whole bunch of energetic factors that have to be added into this. Now, we don't know. Years ago, 40 years ago, we were below that galactic equator. So we were in kind of let's call it a negative space at that point, just for polarity's purposes.
Just for shits and giggles.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's negative as it's bad. It's just negative in that's the polarity that it's in.
Yeah.
We know positive ions are no good, negative ions are good. You have different effects when you're in that one end of the polarized energetic system. Now we're entering, well, we're well into it now, but we're into the opposite polarity of that now. And yeah, there's going to be massive energetic changes, whether it's the planet in the sky or the way the sun radiates through this space, because it's being filtered through a different filter now. It's hard to, it's so complex. I'm just kind of spinning the variables in my head, and I've got, several volumes full of variables now that can't be resolved because each one relies on the next.
Yep.
So it is a very, very large question. I think the easiest way to answer it is we're in a different part of space. Yes, things are going to be different.
Yeah.
Period.
But then it comes to ask the question of why are we in a different part of space?
Well, it's because we're always in motion. I mean, the sun has never stopped.
I get it. But here's the thing. We're always in motion. But over generations and generations of First Nations peoples and people who have been watching the sky and have been sailing their ships by the stars, who've been, all these things have been going on, right? and the sun always rose in the exact same spot, and the sun always set in the same spot. And then all of a sudden in 2009, the Inuit go, wait a second.
Mhm.
Wait a second. The sun is not in the right spot. That says to me that it's not just a matter of we've kind of gone slowly shifting to a new position. That sounds to me like we've just all of a sudden gone bloop.
Well,
We're now seeing
a lot of
we're
those,
seeing since 2013, but especially
Yeah.
2015, radical changes. Like people are saying, the North Star is not in the same spot anymore, and I know where the North Star should be over my house.
Yep. And a lot of this, you can trace it back to when they believe we crossed that equator. That sort of triggered a number of these events, and it's trickling out. You can't pin it down to a minute or a second or a day or even probably a month when it happened. But on the aggregate, we had crossing the equator, and then we're seeing all of these differences. So I have to postulate that there is some correlation there. May not be the cause, but they're connected for sure.
I think I know, and I think you're absolutely right. I absolutely agree with you. I always question why the changes happen so suddenly.
Yeah.
Why are certain years that were obviously trigger years? In 2015 always comes up in this one. Always comes up. What the fuck happened in 2015? Because that's pretty much where everything started going loopy.
Yeah.
What's the causality to it? And because I can't believe, with everything else we're experiencing, from the geological to the weather to the physical on our own selves, to what we're seeing in the sky, to the Mandela effect shit that's going on.
Yeah, history changes and all that. Like,
but again, that coming back down to like just Mandela effect shit, though, right? As a general thing, it all started at a relative. I can't believe that it all has to be connected. I don't believe that these things are all so major that they can be 5 different reasons. Like this is being caused by this, and physical stuff's being caused by this, and the geomagnetic is causing earthquakes, and I just don't buy that. I just don't buy it.
Well, I mean, if you look at the energetic effects, let's just look at the basic magnetics behind switching polarities.
Yep.
Below, okay, you've got this massive magnetic field, top of it's positive, bottom of it's negative. You've got a magnet, the planet, sitting below that. It's going to be oriented in a certain angle, certain direction, certain shape, right? If the negative is radiating out from the bottom, then the positive is going to want to point up on the secondary magnet. If that crosses that equator, it's going to want to flip over.
Okay, and awesome, because that's what I was just going to say. Is it a matter that we haven't crossed the equator?
Or we're not far enough to actually create the big event.
The big flip. Yeah. That there is still, that we're in that kind of like that experiment that we saw in Africa with the guy with the big water pans, and when he was put the flower petal in, and on north of the equator it went clockwise. I can't remember now.
Yep.
And south of the equator, like 20 feet in the other direction, it went counterclockwise. But when he was right on the equator, it just went straight down.
Yep. And I mean, if you would,
situations where we are literally right on the equator, therefore everything's in flux.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, we're not right on the equator, but we're not a mile above it either. We're just, in a galactic scale, just a titch over.
Yeah.
So we're beginning to see the effects of this reversed in polarity, and it's a universal polarity. It's galactic polarity, and this hasn't. I think this goes along with the precession of the equinoxes, which is like last time we crossed this would have been 872 years ago.
26,000 and some odd number of years ago. Okay, hold on. Eagle Feather, do you want to you've got your hand up. Did you want to add something to this? Maybe. Maybe.
If you don't unmute, we'll unmute you, and that could be embarrassing.
John,
You can't put your hand up and not come on. That's how it works.
She's just stepped away from the computer. Okay, so let's go. Trina, you've got your hand up. What did you want to add, love?
Okay, the equator and the polarity and all of that explains a lot, but it still does not explain why in 2016 my rib cage is lower.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. The physical
I'm sorry, it doesn't explain that.
Yeah, certainly. I totally agree. There's a lot of questions that we just don't have answers for.
What the hell? Like, how is I'm still 2 years later. I still feel it and go, this is not my rib cage. Like, it feels foreign to me. So I think we have enough physical things going on. Like, what's happening in the sky, they're hiding it, whatever. But what is personally happening to me, physically, to my children, physically, where all of a sudden you just wake up one day and my ribs aren't my ribs anymore.
And my hips are not actually connected the same way that they were 2 years ago, and I'd like to know why the fuck that happened.
My rib cage, when I lay on my side, I'm a small person, but when I lay on my side, the top of my pelvic bone and the bottom of my rib cage touch. Explain that to me. I mean, when did that happen? I didn't shrink that much. I'm only 42. So, it's just another thing to throw on the table. These massive physical changes. That's a big one for me. Yep. I'm bringing my personal. That's a huge one for me. And it still freaks me out. It's been that way for 2 years now. And my ribs hurt. They hurt really bad. And I was like, I'd be holding my rib cage at the bottom, and people would say, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. My ribs just hurt. And then it was about a month later, I noticed they were significantly lower. And I can't come up with a good medical reason for
no, there isn't
why my rib cage just sunk.
No, Trina, listen, I did the exact same thing, and I joked about it because
I'm
someone
just
had
throwing
brought it
that out there.
Yep, no, the physical changes to our body. We did a big show, was it right around this time last year, actually, maybe it was April of 2017, when we talked about the actual physical changes to our body. Skeletal structure changes. Our ribs, where our heart is now, gone from like one place to like right smack in the middle of our freaking chest. And the same thing with these floating ribs that fucking bend all over the place. I'm like, what the fuck is up with these stupid things? Never in my life have I ever said to someone, don't hug me there. You're crushing my short ribs. And yet now I'm saying it fucking all the time. My kids come up and they're like, squish, they're like, oh, you're killing me. You're crushing my short ribs. Those words have never come out of my mouth in my entire life, ever. And I've hugged a lot of kids. I have lots and lots of kids.
But I think what John is saying about the polarity and where we've jumped, we've obviously done something, and it could be universal, and that could be a contributing factor, for sure. But I feel like, Deanna, you keep saying, what's the big thing? What's the big thing? And I feel like with these physical changes, we're still not there. We still haven't figured it out yet, and I think that's what we're trying to do right now. But I wanted to bring up the massive, because I was there for the conversations about the massive physical changes everybody was experiencing. And I just wanted to put that out on the table too. Like, well, that explains some things, but doesn't explain my ribs changing.
Okay, in which case,
anyway,
the next piece we have to throw back onto the table is the one that I discussed last week. This is all a fucking hologram. We're all in a fucking simulation. None of it's fucking real. And our avatars keep getting changed around.
And the guy who uploaded the patch was smoking way too much weed.
And the guy he was fucking snorting way too much cocaine when he uploaded that last piece of code. And that's why all of a sudden we're like, wait, again, you know, like my hips are no longer in the right place and nothing quite works the same.
Don't forget, Daddy, the guy that discovered the new part of our DNA was Professor Christ.
Seriously? I did not see
You can't make this shit up, I swear to God. Professor Christ.
Okay,
Look
send me
that
the
up.
link. Jane, send me the link. Whatever you got on this, send it to me. I'm going to have to look into that. We're getting groans from the audience right now. Like, oh, seriously? No, don't go there. Yeah, everyone's now peeing themselves because they're laughing so hard.
I swear to God, it's true.
We have to throw the things all on the table. Like I said, you throw on these things when you get to the Mandela effect shit specifically. That's the stuff that you have to sit there and go like, is this just fucking all a hologram? No, not a hologram. If it's just a construct, is it a Sims reality game? Is it some sort of bullshit? And these are just avatars that we're driving around. And occasionally they get upgraded. And we've all had, how many conversations have we had? You wake up in the morning and you've got a bruise. Trina, I remember when you did your thing with your eye. Okay? I woke up the other day with a fucking bruise. No memory. And I'm like, seriously, for me to have a bruise that big and that painful, I should have some memory of bumping into something, banging something, getting hit by a car, you know, something that explains how I got this. Nope. Okay, and Stephanie, that's the same with me. Because Stephanie said, every time I start to stray from the construct theory, something happens that kicks me right back to it again. And the same thing, so I'll try any theory on. I will literally try on any theory, wear it around like a coat for a while, see how it fits, how does it feel. And that is one of those theories, I just keep coming back to that over and over again.
And don't forget also, there are no forests. Remember? There are no forests.
All that kind of, this is all different. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
You know, maybe this is just a harvesting place after all. You know, there's that theory. Right?
Here's the thing. We talk about history. Earl just brought up history changing. What if history isn't changing? What if it's just they've upgraded the, version 2.3.1? And in this version 2.3.1, we've got this, and this happened in our past because they got to shift it up for the timeline that's coming in next. So they're going to shift.
Could be.
Reset.
Reset.
But,
yep.
Like last night, I was flipping through Facebook, and I saw a video for the Platters music group that was in the 60s.
Yep.
I remember them being all guys, but now they have a female in the group. Like, I'm like, huh? Like, no, the Platters were all like,
I'm trying to picture that myself. I don't know. I can't come up with a thought one way or the other on that one. It just seems no, I can't put any visualization on that one at all. But we talk about history, right? Okay.
Right.
Norm, exactly. History isn't history only the propaganda meme written by those who win the wars. Which is why back when all the fucking history shit with World War II was radically changed, or around the time in 2015, and I lost my shit. Literally lost my shit. Because now the Nazis were all over the fucking world. Fucking Japan was in the Mediterranean. Japan was firing bombs that were like balloon bombs that were hitting Manitoba, Canada. Fuck you. Did not fucking happen in my reality. Right? And you sit there and go like, are they trying to rewrite history to make it so that the Axis team, if you will, were bigger, badder, more powerful? And if so, why?
Oh, get this.
If so, why?
Get this, Danny. So I was watching another video. It was about if U.S. and Canada were ever to merge. And in there, they were talking about how Canadians burned down the White House.
Yeah, I was never taught that in my history either.
I've never heard that. And I'm like, what?
Nope. And I'm sorry, going to school in Canada, I'm pretty fucking sure that if Canadians had burned down the White House, that we would have been taught that in Canada. It seems like it's kind of major. Just saying. And I sure as fuck didn't learn that in any history class ever when I was in junior high school, public school, or anything else. Yeah, no. Yeah, Chris Breakspear, apparently, bunch of Canadian hoodlums, because we're such troublemakers, ran out the border down to Washington, D.C., and burned the White House down. Now, what was that? That was in the 1700s or something, wasn't it, Earl? I can't remember when it happened, but it was way, way fucking long.
Yeah, it was way before our time.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
1812? Seriously? Seriously, in 1812, Canada was far too busy fighting the War of the 1812 to be running down to Washington, D.C. to burn down fucking the White House. I know, but it's in the history books now. Go fucking look it up. Them troublemaker fucking Canadians burned down the White House in 1812. Go figure. There are some clauses within the Articles of Confederation which actively invited all Canada to join the Confederacy from the 1770s. I have no words. The World War of 1812. Yeah, you gotta wonder, Igor, because it's funny. In whatever country you learn the history of your country, right? It's like the thing you're taught in junior high school, public school, high school, right? The War of 1812, yeah, we know all about it in Canada as far as, the Canadian War of 1812. And yet it seems to me that there were fucking wars all over the world in 1812. So are you right? The War of 1812, was it like the real First World War, so to speak, or one of the many world wars? Because apparently it was one of those years. Everyone was pissed off and fighting with everyone else. I don't know. But here you go. History, if history is written by the victor, who is rewriting the history? Is there, like I say, some big AI program? Is there some overseeing controller who's playing this video game that we're fucking stuck in? And they just keep fucking rewriting the damn thing?
That could be.
I know nothing.
And what you just said, Danny, I don't like the thought of anyone human being, it's like suddenly feel, okay, the possibility of being controlled even more than you thought. It's like, nah, that ain't happening. It's like, you find out it is something like that. It's for, hold it, how deep does this shit go and how much did I fucking forget? Yeah.
And when did I forget it?
Yeah.
Cradle to grave.
Yeah, I'm not going to say you're wrong with that one. It's crazy shit, dudes. I'm telling you, literally, just shit has been so fucking crazy. And there's so many bits and pieces that just come up over and over again. And you just look at them, and every so often you got to take them out and throw them on the table and go, seriously? What the fuck do I do with you? What category do I even put you into? By observing the code, it has to change. Laura, I actually agree. And that's why I've said this for years, and Lisa Harrison and I both have said this for a long time. You call it the bullshit when you see it. And it has always been my belief, God knows I have no proof, but my own belief, that when we call out the bullshit, that we can change the bullshit, that we can mitigate it, that we can mutate it. And that's why I continuously call it the bullshit when I see it. That's why I still do news shows, not very often, mind you, but occasionally. Yeah, David.
Here's the theory that I've been playing with for a very long time. Is
Throw
that
it on the table?
All right, we're in a construct. That was the original design. We come into, or beings come into the construct to have experience. That's not a problem, okay? It was the co-opters that changed the narrative, okay? And if you look at all the Illuminati symbols and all like that, Christianity, religion, all of them, all symbols require a narrative to work. If you're handed that narrative, you're going off someone else's narrative. If you have your own integrated narrative, the symbol works for you because the symbol meets you where you're at, rather than you trying to externalize and meet the symbol.
That's good, Dave.
And so if we go with what you're talking about the code, if you see the code for what it is, you naturally fall in alignment and accord with who you are, and the code comes and meets you where you are.
Right, so how do we change the code to get the fuck out of this place?
You have it. It comes down to a couple of things. First, in a psychological and being level, you have to look at your capacity of acceptance.
Yeah.
If your capacity of acceptance is those fuckers over there are doing this to me, well, that works for a short time, but at some point you have to just accept it. It's like, okay, they can go off and do whatever they want to do, and you start creating your own narrative for yourself. That's going to be a long, arduous undertaking, because there's been some core pieces that have been co-opted. People have not been able to evolve past something like belief. Belief is just basically a way of saying, I don't know. And if you're wrapping I don't know with something that you know, you're saying something is absolute and you know this for sure. Well, the core of it is you still don't know. And if they're doing that, they still have you. And guess what? Their narratives are falling by the wayside, and people are trying to figure out what's going on because they were born into this co-opted stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they know. They don't know anything else, so they're really having to get messy.
Yeah, it's real fucking messy right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining that really eloquently or not.
Well, I mean, sorry guys, I keep getting a serious tickle in my throat. I feel like I've inhaled a feather at the moment. We all have different theories. Mm-hmm. We all have a shit ton of different theories, and God knows, like I said, I'll try a theory on like a new pair of socks and see how it feels. For me personally, I can stick with what I know, always looking for other pieces that will fit in, right? Always being open to the new pieces becoming visible, or the new thoughts, the new feelings coming out where it helps to guide you in the way you're going, because that's all we can do, because there are no fucking answers.
Well, that's exactly how you get out of it, because the co-opting was that it required that everyone stay in a very static place. There's no evolution that happens in that. And if you do exactly what you're talking about, no matter how clean or woo-woo or messy or whatever, all of a sudden you have brought that dynamic aspect where there's an evolution that kicks in. And that's relative to every single person, individually and collectively.
And that kind of goes back to kind of like what I've been saying for a long time. It's like, this is the time where we just need to do our own thing.
Mhm.
We've got to do our own thing and stop waiting around. That whole waiting around for this to happen, waiting around for that to happen, waiting around for someone to do something, waiting around for the savior meme, waiting around for World War III, waiting around, whatever it is. We spend sometimes too much time looking ahead that we're not here in the now.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just got to ignore all that fucking shit, all that co-opting.
Mhm.
Ask the questions, look at it. You look at it, you see the events come up, and you take notice. Or as Jeff always says, you witness it. And in witnessing it, you go, yep, there's another piece. We'll throw that over there on the table. But that doesn't stop you from moving ahead with your own stuff.
Right.
Living your life, going through your experience, however you want to call it, gaining your points on your system, I don't know, whatever, your sim system. Because it's too easy to get caught up in this place of I'm just going to just keep looking farther ahead or dwelling behind as well without actually being in this now moment, without actually being here and doing something here for yourself.
Well,
And
that's,
by doing something for yourself, I mean, like, do what makes you happy. Just do what makes you happy. Ignore the shit. Do what makes you happy.
And if
Well,
we live in a matrix, we're forced, unless we are, living, we have our own log cabin and it's out in the country and we have our own food and our own animals and blah, 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 and we live off grid. Otherwise, we're all caught in this, we are subject to live and function in this matrix. You have to. You can step outside of it for the majority of your day or your week, whatever, but at some point in the day and week, you got to step back into it, and that's, so living outside of it is like impossible unless you can cut that cord completely. And who the heck can do that?
well, I did.
Well, right, but that's not the norm. And I don't mean norm as in the Matrix norm. I don't mean it that way. I mean it for people who are awake to the shit going on in the world, yet we choose to stay functioning in the Matrix for whatever reason. Well, we have to have a roof over our head. Well,
Exactly.
yeah. And in order to do that, you got to work somewhere. You got to have an income. And in order to do that, you have to have a tax number, and you have to, et cetera, et cetera. And even though it's an ugly ass trap, like I said earlier, from cradle to grave.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's
and so to not be part of it, you have to step completely outside of it.
well, that's there's a trap in what you're talking about, because the way that you're seeing that is those systems are going to be around forever and ever and ever, and they're not.
No.
But
No,
I
David, I follow what Jane says, though.
yeah.
Going back to, we're talking about now.
Mhm.
I can
Right.
hope. I know that the IRS is fucking illegal. I know the taxation in Canada is fucking illegal. I know the driver's license are fucking illegal. I know that all of this shit is fucking illegal. I know that the money system is fucking illegal. And sometime in this place called the future, they may or may not exist anymore.
Right.
But that's the future. And I can't live waiting for that to happen.
Right.
Because
So,
I have family now, right?
Right. So I've done two things. One, if you remember the movie Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
he's sitting in front of the Ancient One, and she's going, well, you can do all of this, and she does creates this amazing matrix out of like nothing. It's beautiful. He's going, well, how did you do that? I've got, my hands aren't working or anything like that. How do I get from here to there? And she's going, you can do all of this and more. That's not a problem. And so that's the big question that seems to be hitting everyone right now, is how do we get from where we are here in this co-opted system to, wherever it is that we want to go? I mean, I've been reading I've been reading the looking at how do I move forward, and one of the things I've been reading is the Ringing Cedar series.
Yeah, I need to read that again.
It's spectacular because it's way out there, beautiful, serious, woo woo. But there's so many elements in there that gives you those here's how to start creating this now. You don't necessarily have to do it exactly the way it's laid it out in there, but there's enough traction in there, it feels like, where, oh, we can start playing with this right now. And it also talks about what are the underlying structures and functions that are happening, so that you can start connecting with your own expression in this construct.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm going to jump in, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Jump
please.
You know the big change that we have made in our lives. Like, we moved from Missouri out to Oregon. Huge change. I live on a farm now. And I couldn't have done it without some help from you guys. Okay? And God bless you all. But I had to make a choice. When you say, how do we get out of this? I had to make a choice to step out of where I was, what seemed okay, like it sucked, but it was what I knew.
But it's what you knew.
I had to step out of my comfort zone. So when, yes, there are certain things like we have to have a driver's license, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to cry. I always start crying when I'm on here.
I'm sorry, I don't do it on purpose.
No, it's good crying. It's good crying. We have to be able to look inside of ourselves. Do I have a talent that I could make money off of? Can I grow food to make money off of and help other people? Are there ways that I can buck the system without bucking the system? You know, I'm doing that. And I never thought, after 20 plus years, I always wanted to live on a farm with my husband and my kids, and I never thought that would be a reality, but I made it a reality. I made it happen. And I think everybody just needs to understand, yeah, it's a rat race. Guys, it is. And there are certain things that you have to do still, but the more of us that just go, I'm going to go out here and do what makes me happy, you trust me, I'm living it. I am living it right now. And you guys helped me live it. And I don't want you guys to think that you're just stuck in some hole, because you can get out of it. You absolutely can get out of that hole. And I love you all so much, and it makes my heart hurt because I'm so happy. And I want everybody else to be this happy. And it's not like we're rich and you know, living high on the hog, so to speak. We're doing what we should do. I'm homeschooling the boys. Zachary built his own computer. Good Lord. You know, we can step out of it. We can. And it doesn't have to be this massive uprising. It just has to be a little bit at a time. And if you choose to step out of it, it will come to you. Because this property that we live on right now, I don't even know how this happened. Everybody's like, how did y'all find that? What? I made it happen. I know I made it happen. You guys can do this. Yep. Don't feel so stuck. Please don't feel so stuck. It's real. You can change. You can change it. And stop looking to the future. Stop looking in the past. Make a decision. But I'm preaching. I'm sorry, I'm preaching, but it just hurts. Like, you guys you can. You really can. And it's terrifying. This is the most terrifying thing I have ever done in my life. And I have never felt more like myself than I do now. I promise. So you guys just trust yourselves. Trust yourselves. You can. And there are people out there, especially in here. We've got your back. We've got your back.
Yep.
We will help you, even if it's just sending every good energy that we possibly can. I have been on the receiving end of it. Lord, let me get off my pulpit right now. I'm sorry, it just went off, but it's possible.
I agree, love. No, I agree. And we have people in this room, like Jenny and Jake. I've just gone to bed. I saw them disappear. And by this time tomorrow, they're going to be in Gozo. And they just did the same thing. We got to go. We can't be here anymore. And fuck it. We really liked Gozo. We're moving to Gozo. And they just made that choice. And they put all their energy towards making it happen. And it's a step. It's a step. Stepping out of, and I agree. I mean, that's why I'm not in Canada anymore. Because I couldn't be in that country anymore. I just could not fucking be there anymore. Sometimes we can step out. But it takes being focused on this now. Like I say, like you gotta, it breaks my heart to see a lot of people putting all their energy looking either forwards or backwards. And all their energy goes to this thing somewhere out here that could be, would be, should be, might be. But what are you doing in the now? And that's just, for me, I have to, right now, do the shit that I want to do. And I have to just, if I want to do something that's creative, then just actually get up and go do something that's creative. And if I want to go sit on a fucking rock and stare out at the ocean, I'm going to go sit on a rock and stare out at the ocean. And if I want to sit down and read a book, I never do that anymore. One of these days I will. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to find the things that make us happy and just do them without, exactly, Gail, fear stops us, but we have to get rid of the fear. And I've said, I've lived, you guys know me, I'm a fucking nomad. I have lived all over the fucking planet. I think I've lived on what, like 5 continents now. And I've gotten up most of the time on short-term notice, 3-4 weeks notice or less, and just gotten up and fucking gone. Change is not bad. Change is just change. And you never know until you take a step. And what's a step for one person is not necessarily the same step for someone else. You know, we all have different needs and different things. Yeah, I don't know. Deb, I liked what you said too. Like, we never know where we're going to end up being. And Deb was saying earlier she never thought that she'd be where she is in a forest and growing food and making her own products and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 20 years ago, if you told me that I'd be back in Gozo again doing what I do now, I would have thought you were fucking insane. Yes.
Well, it's kind of funny you just said that. Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah, I don't think a lot of us would have thought we'd be where we're at. I mean, I'm not even near the same fucking person I was even close. The 80s seemed like almost a dream to me. Kind of, they seem fuzzier.
That person that I was 20 years ago, I don't even know who that chick is. Don't even know who that chick is. And 30 years ago? Holy crap, that's just a stranger on the street. I have no fucking clue who that chick is. Well, guys, we are pretty much at our 2 hours. Does anyone want to throw anything on the table before we go? Some bombshell that you would just going to throw it all open again? Tee-hee-hee, as usual?
Yeah, the world's a stage.
The world is a
stage. Or we're either the audience or we're the...
No, we're the actors. I think we're the actors. Someone needs to fire the director, though.
But like I've said, when this all ends, we're gonna be looking up, and you just gonna see the credits rolling across the sky. You know, with everyone.
It'll be new chemtrails. We'll be like, produced by.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Okay, that's actually really funny. Okay, guys. I'm gonna close off things here. I do not know if there will be a show next Sunday because I might be in Manchester for next Sunday. I don't know yet, and I won't know till later on tomorrow. So I'll make sure everyone have an update of what's going on for next weekend. We will probably on this Wednesday probably just do another Unfuckers discussion. Anne and I tried to get together yesterday morning to discuss the putting together our natural first aid kit part 2, and we got through about an hour of discussion. It was like, there's no fucking way we can do this right now. We've got so much work to like just trying to get the graphics put together, et cetera, et cetera. So I will say that Quintessentially Whole part 2 on the natural first aid kit will probably be not this week coming, but the week after that. Yeah, crazy stuff. Norm, the girls loved the opera. They actually really enjoyed it, and which was really, really nice. My girls got to go to their first opera. It was, of course, an Italian opera. Is they had a screen at the back of the stage that shone the translations into English as they were singing and as they were talking. It was all they translated all the words into English so they could at least follow the storyline along, which I thought was cool. Yeah, so we will be back on Wednesday. Again, we'll probably just have like another sit down, throw it on the table type chat like this, and may or may not have a show on Sunday. And yes, Quintessentially Whole first aid kit part 2 will be the following week after that. And that's it for us. So I'm going to say good night, everyone. Good night.
One small step for man.